Hello, and welcome to the THC show. I'm Jericho Ros3, your host, and today is 7:20 p.m. on May 25th, 2020. Yes, the year of the great pause. So I'd like to welcome you guys to the show. This is where we have a weekly dialogue about everything consciousness, all things consciousness, if you will. And this is our 8th episode of the 2nd season, and the topic of today's show is going to be initiation. In the last few episodes, we have been discussing things like ritual and ceremony, and there's a specific purpose for me leaning in this direction with the show, because we've been having discussions about our ability to reprogram ourselves the way we would like for ourselves to be, removing old habits and behavioral patterns and thought patterns and things like that, with and replacing them with things that are more valuable to us and more helpful to us, and that will bring more love and light to our lives, rather than depression, negativity, and things of that sort. So one of the things that seems to have been lost on current society, at least most of the Western world, at least, is initiation into manhood and womanhood via the means of a traditional rite or ritual, coming of age ritual, so to speak, that that takes place in a sacred space and is overseen by a village elder, or someone of the elder sort in the family or community that the youth gives completely full trust to perform this ritual. That kind of thing has throughout human history been required to distinguish the different archetypes of life that people move through, especially going from the boy to a man, or the female to a woman, the girl to a woman. So that's why I wanted initiation to be the focus of today's show, because I like to talk about the initiations that many of us should have had that didn't. Hopefully all of you, many of you did get a good coming of age ritual that assisted you with becoming the adult that you could, the best adult version of yourself you could be. But I, like many others, did not receive that, not in a proper fashion by people qualified to do so, because it hasn't really been handed down generation to generation properly, I would say, at least in this country, as far as I can see, for some time. The last people to really do that ritually were the Native Americans, and the last those that were actually doing this kind of thing on a consistent basis. Like that last little vestige is dying out, and it's dying out really quickly. So what I'd like to do is have a discussion about ways that initiation can be brought back into our communities, into our homes, into the minds of our youth, to help bridge the gap that's missing from so many fathers not being there, from so many policies set in place that do not facilitate the ease of family life remaining as cohesive as it could be. There are actually government policies in place that are a detriment to the nuclear family unit. One thing, for example, the food stamps, welfare programs, a lot of the different government aid programs will cut off different benefits if a man is living in the home. And then if you do become married to a man, then they'll cease to give you those benefits. And a lot of people have, I would say that I'm pretty sure that there are stories of women who have neglected to, or not neglected to, but purposefully kept the man out of their home in order to still receive government benefits, so that the children would not be around a man as often as they probably should, in order to receive a proper balance of masculine and feminine parenting. And then I would go so far as to say that a lot of people in these circumstances are not at the mature masculine or mature feminine archetype, mature man, mature woman archetype level. And if you still have the boy or girl archetype installed in your operating system, and you're still acting out that archetype, then you're probably not going to be able to, then you're not qualified to offer the ritual coming of age rites to a youth. So the point I'm trying to make is that, the purpose of this discussion is to get initiation rites, the ritual and ceremony that is basically, it all boils down to it being a math. It's a mathematical formula that needs to be applied to a situation. But we call it, rites of passage, rites of coming of age, rituals, coming of age rituals. And we would like to find ways that we can come up with new ones or reinstitute old ones, but either way, get some type of properly orchestrated coming of age rituals into the lives of our youth, so that there is that to be that bridge from child to adult. We need that, because when children don't have that, they end up becoming adults who bring into them many elements of the child archetype, behavioral and thought patterns. And so people end up becoming adults that don't know how to be as responsible adults as they could be had they been given a proper ritual that would actually alter their subconscious, alter their consciousness, and remove the child, and now you're an adult. Like that's a powerful thing. And a lot of people didn't get that, and a lot of people did get it, but got it in an improper way, which we might call that a pseudo ritual, a pseudo initiation. It's not a true initiation, because in order for that to occur properly, it needs to be orchestrated and administered by or overseen by an elder, the mature elder, who is wise in all of the ways and who can actually pass this knowledge on to the youth, and in a way that is based on love and help and not harm and not ego. But the ego of the youth must die, and once that ego dies, then the youth is now going to begin the ego of a newborn adult, and hopefully, and with the help of this newfound knowledge, begin to act in ways that are more adult-like and less childish, because those ways have to die with the ego that died during the ritual. So that being said, I would like to expound a little bit on, take questions about, and ask, and not just take questions about, but also if anybody joins and wants to joins the conversation and wants to add their expertise on ritual, or on rites of passage, or on this particular topic, or any part of it, feel free to leave a message. I'll read out your comment, respond to it, or anything of the sort. And once again, something else from my newer readers who may not have heard me say this on the show before, but if you go to thethcshow.com, there is a place on that page where you are able to leave a voice message of your voice. And if you would like to do that for me to play on the show at some time in a future episode, feel free to leave a voice message there, talking about anything you want, just to say hi, giving me a shout out, whatever you want to do. If you just want to plug the show, hey, I'm such and such, and I'm on the THC show with Jericho Ros, that's enough, and I'll put that in one of my advertisements or something. I'd appreciate it though. But it's just another way to get people involved in the show and become a part of the podcast, because I really want this to be a platform for all of our voices, talking about things that we all want to talk about, and dialoguing about the things that are difficult to talk about. But as intelligent, mature adults, there's nothing that we should not be able to talk about. Anything should be able to be talked about by mature adults without getting too emotionally charged if we're all trying to move forward in love and light. So I'm not scared of the political issues. I'm not scared of the, the gender issues. I'm not scared of the race issues. Any of these things, these conversations don't scare me, because I have a good heart. I'm about love and light and seeking love and light, and I want that for everyone. So having conversations about these things, are going to come from me from that place. So while I'm not trying to proclaim that I'm not human and that I can't be emotionally triggered by certain things, but I'm pretty much in control of my emotions, especially when I'm having dialogue, and I'm not going to get too charged up about things. I try to keep a level head, and I want to have these kind of conversations with people as much as possible. So in order to facilitate this process, I'm going to have to be at least the one in the center who keeps a level head about this. So anything you guys ever want to talk about, make a topic of the show, please feel free to give me a message, and I'll always try to include new topics that people want to discuss. And I hope that you tune in when I'm talking about your topic, at least, so that you can join the discussion, and let's get some of this stuff out in the open, and then figure out some answers to some of these problems that we have that we can't seem to solve on this planet, or at least, figure out new ways to think better, new ways to use our brains and our minds and our consciousnesses more efficiently, more effectively to manifest the results that we desire to see in our lives, and to have the experiences that we want to have. So that being said, I would like to just talk a little bit about my own personal life and give people some perspective on how serious it is to have initiation rites and coming of age rituals for the youth. There's just certain things, there's certain ritualistic behaviors and instances and experiences that people go through at different points of their life that kind of set the mark for this new part of the journey. And as a teenager, there's a lot of different things that people can experience as a coming of age type ritual in your teens. For one of the things that make people feel like they went from boyhood to manhood, or from womanhood from girlhood to womanhood, would be, for example, doing certain substances. Maybe on the school ground, or maybe after school hanging out with certain friends that are a little older, and they give you like a cigarette for the first time, or maybe they give you weed for the first time, or the first time you have alcohol. To a lot of people, that kind of experience can be a coming of age ritual. And in a lot of places, people ritualize that kind of experience, and they have certain things that are done to all of the new bloods that come in and do. Like every time, you do, and sometimes people throw humor into it. They make jokes and hazing ritual kind of things like that. Hazing is a ritualistic behavior too. Or just like hazing, once you've been hazed in a sorority or a fraternity, now you're officially, okay, you're grown now. You're not a high schooler anymore. You're officially a college, adult. So that's another form of ritual that is kind of a coming of age ritual. A lot of other different, like different substances, like I said, maybe once somebody, like in certain arenas where, say, people are living a little more legal or street, like people go to jail in the streets, and once they go to jail, they're 17, 18, you get locked up. Now you come out. Now, people look at that as a coming of age type ritual, and while it's a sad fact, many people in the hood and many people who come up with a culture that doesn't venerate the law much, or police officers much, they have a disdain for that establishment. They might they actually look at a felony conviction as almost like, I would say it's kind of analogous to a college degree. It's like you come home and say maybe like aristocratic families with a doctorate in something, and it's like something to be proud of. Oh man, you got a doctorate. Oh, this is heavy. Like, we got to celebrate. I mean, there's people in the hood and people in in places where that culture of not respecting the law much and not having much veneration for law enforcement. There's people in that culture who look at a felony as, say, something like a college degree. It's like, now you've earned your stripe and now you're one of us, if you will. And there's people that won't even like let you into their kind of circles if you don't have that as if you haven't experienced that coming of age ritual. You came of age and now you're a gangster, or now you're a thug, or now you are, one of us. And that's just one another example of it. Another example would be joining a gang, joining a street gang, joining even like white supremacist gangs, joining police gangs, even like fraternal order police. I mean, like, there's rituals to come of age in these circles. And so the point that I'm trying to make, and why I'm describing all of these rituals that we do have in place, is that they're not serving the functions that this experience is designed to function, to actually facilitate. The purpose of the coming of age ritual is to leave boyhood tendencies behind, or girlhood tendencies behind, and now you're an adult, now you're a man, now you're of age, and you are supposed to take on new responsibilities and start acting like an adult and keep it all together. And you notice that the people who didn't get this ritual have a harder time keeping it together. The people that didn't get this ritual done properly by a proper elder who's properly qualified to transfer this knowledge and wisdom and this new domain onto this youngster. So it's kind of like you join a gang and you have a gang member who is probably who's more than likely had some dysfunction in his life and family, that allowed him to get into this level of society, and so passing on that dysfunction is very, very hard not to do. So the person is giving their person is surrendering and submitting to this function being administrated by someone who is not an elder in the community, who is not someone who has had this coming of age rite ritually held for them properly by an elder that instituted the correct mature masculine values into the ritual or into the coming of age rite. So what it boils down to, and why I'm going into this on this tangent about this, is because while many people are getting coming of age rituals enacted on them and becoming a part of different coming of age rituals, and even sometimes ceremonial based rituals, if it's not being orchestrated by a mature masculine, then it's not being done properly. And if it's not done properly, then it's more like a pseudo. That's why I called it pseudo ritual, a pseudo coming of age ritual, because it's not really allowing the person to step into the full mature adult. And that's why the boy mentality is lingering there, and we have so many adults running around, grown men who are physically grown, but are still carrying with them into their adult life childish boy tendencies that are wreaking havoc in our personal lives and even professional lives, or in social lives. A lot of us, you don't see a mature masculine being called a douchebag. Oh, he's such a douche. He's a dick. You don't hear that about people who are the mature masculine, because they operate with love, and they operate with responsibility, and they operate with honor and respect for people. And that's just what a mature masculine does. It is not a man's and I don't give a fuck what anybody says. I'm a grown-ass man. I play basketball. I'm an athlete. I'm testosterone infused the same as any other man. But I also know that despite the fights I've been in or any violent activity I've had in my life, that was not my nature. I never wanted that. You don't want to be violent. That's not natural. It's not normal, and it's not a masculine thing to want violence. That is not masculine. That is not mature masculine. It's boy masculine. It's tantrum brat. I didn't get what I want, so now I'm gonna That's not the same thing as mature masculine. A mature masculine uses wisdom and intelligence and love and respect and honor. These are the qualities that you hear about the code of a true gangster. And like, I consider God to be the ultimate gangster, because, you know, to me, gangster is not a bad word. Gangster is a word that means someone who stands on their shit no matter what. And I have my morals and my principles, and these are what my morals and my principles are, and no matter what, I'm not going to break them for anyone, for any reason. That means that if the law is wrong, then I'll break the law before I break my principle, because my principle is correct and right and true and just and godly. And I'm not going to break that for anything or anyone. My moral compass won't move for money or for a threat or for a threat of arrest, because I'm told that if I don't do this illegal thing, this thing that is legal but it's negative, then I'm going to go to jail. Well, you're going to have to take me to jail, because I'm not going to do that. Hey Lauren, how you doing? Oh, it's always good to see you. I'm glad you made it to the show. Much love, always. Trunk Club, y'all, check her out. Lauren Monaco. Shameless plug. But anyway, I was talking about archetype and how we need archetype. I'm sorry, how we need the rituals that allow us to move from child archetype to adult archetype, and what happens when we don't have this in our lives, and why it has been removed from our lives, and what we need to do to get this back into our lives. So glad to see you here, baby. So when I was talking about was back in, and I was going to use myself as an example, and talk about the archetype coming of age rituals that I went through and what I've seen a lot of other people go through. Like, for example, we were talking about different initiations, like in gangs or in different kind of organizations where at a certain age and after puberty, you know, the male is made to do something. Like in his gang, for example, you might be made to commit some violent act, go kill somebody randomly just to show us that you're hard, and now you're in the gang. Like, that's a ritual, but it's a destructive ritual. It does nothing to enrich the person. It does nothing to make the person a better person. If anything, it degrades them. It adds guilt to them for killing an innocent person. It does a lot to their psyche and to their mentality that does not help, and will not probably be the catalyst for a very turbulent free adulthood. So what I'm getting at is that as a child, I kind of went through some things similar. I went through some coming of age stuff, probably a little younger than a lot of people. By age 11, I was kind of into some things that a lot of people might not have been into it well until, you know, adulthood for some people. But I just had an access to the streets a little earlier in life than I probably should have, by just choosing that for myself and not caring about the risks. Sorry, Mom. But it led to, you know, a pretty turbulent time for me in my late teens and early 20s, and even well into my 30s a little bit. I had some turbulent times because of the lack of proper coming of age rituals that gave me the sense of manhood that I might have gotten had I had different people who were qualified bring me the proper coming of age ritual that may have been more in alignment with my highest good. And I didn't have that, so, you know, I suffered some consequences for that. But the good thing is that no matter what, you know, if you had any type of coming of age ritual or not, which most of us have, we just probably don't even recognize it as that. But, you know, if you're able to go through it and overcome it, if I'm able to go through it and overcome it and become better for it, and be able to help other people learn about it and fix the archetypal programming issues that they may have in their own psyches, then if I can do it, anyone can do it. So I'm just really, really grateful that I had it pointed out to me I remember I was probably would be about 30 years old the first time I heard Terence McKenna say the word archetype, and it was the first time I saw the word in my life that made me want to look it up. I'd seen it before reading in books, and I always used the context clues to kind of just get a guesstimate of what it must mean, and I guess I was kind of not too far off, you know. It means a type, but then there's certain specific archetypes that are in our genetic code and that just have been passed down through human history. And when I never really understood it as that, and what I understand it to be now until I was about 30 and looked it up. I heard Terence McKenna talking, and when he said that, he was in a really deep discussion, and Terence McKenna used to really send me to the dictionary a lot when I first started listening to him, especially, but he's definitely stretched my vocabulary. But Terence McKenna said that started talking about archetypes and Jungian archetypes dictated by the teachings of Carl Jung, and when I looked it up, it really just started to make me understand my life in a whole new way. And so after years of studying that a little bit, you know, I've gotten to a place of understanding of it where I feel like it's really important to start coming up with coming of age rituals. Something that maybe, you know, if it starts here in America, I don't know, wherever, you know, everywhere in the British Empire, everywhere in the Christian Empire eradicated coming of age ritual, and anything ritual or magic or anything like that got washed away. You know, all of the stuff that had been handed down for thousands and thousands of years, from tribe to tribe and generation to generation, like all of that archetypal knowledge and wisdom got lost and got obliterated by the Catholic Church during the Inquisition and all of that. So there's a remnants of it left around the planet. You know, in Australia, South America, Africa, like there's a lot of places where this still goes on, and we need to get that back here. That's one of the biggest issues that we have to face as a country, is our children are not becoming adults. They're becoming adults who have no clue. And it's really, really easy to see by just looking at the degradation of the cultural and educational aptitude of the average adult in the United States. The average 25-year-old adult couldn't pass the GED damn test. It's really crazy at how that the level of education that people have. I mean, people don't understand math. You couldn't give the average 10-year-old a damn a division problem, 3 digits divided by 3 digits, and like they probably couldn't do it without a calculator. Literally, people can't even add without grabbing their cell phone. People can't subtract and add. People can't do math anymore. It's like the actual aptitude that our country had before the advent of smartphones was more than it is, and it seems like over the past like 50 years, it seems like since television came out, our educational aptitude as a country has just went further and further into the ground. And while I'm not trying to judge anybody, and I'm not trying to say that I'm holier than thou, or I'm, you know, any better or worse than anybody else, because I try my best to study as much as I possibly can and read as much as I possibly can and soak up as much information as I possibly can, because I want to learn and grow. I still, you know, I don't feel that I'm any better than anybody else or anything like that, and I'm not trying to say that anybody's better than me. But what I'm getting at is that people like me who see the need for this need to become instrumental in the creation of and the spread of adding ritual, archetype, changing, coming of age ceremony into the lives of our youth. We are losing a battle against the degradation of our intelligence and wisdom and education as a culture, as a species. And I mean, as definitely as a country, but you know, as a species, as we're the top of the food chain, and our dumbing down is, you know, just a domino effect on the rest of the world. But that being said, let me go to one of the comments. Lauren said, "Do you feel that your life path was fated to lead you to the amazing mentality that you have now?" Oh, thank you. I guess I wouldn't say. I mean, I would say, yeah, of course. I think that, you know, in the experiences that I've had, where I left my body, if you will, where I traveled to other dimensions, and you know, I was able to remember things from my past, from the far past, even pre-life stuff, previous life stuff. on shamanic technologies usually, but when I've had these experiences, I've experienced my memories of my mother and father choosing, me, and me choosing them. Like before any of us were born, we all agreed to have me. I remember this, and I remember me choosing my parents. I remember choosing them. I remember why I chose them and what I wanted to gain from their lives and their genetics, and why and how I would end up being who I am today because of it all. Before you're born, before everyone is born, they choose their parents, and they do really, really huge math equations, just huge. You crunch numbers when you're a spirit. It's everything's math, and you can quantify any thought, anything you can ever feel, anything you can think or feel, you can quantify. There's a way to quantify every drop of energy, everything you do, your aura, everything about it can all be quantified into math because it's a matrix and it's all digital. So you're going to crunch that problem and choose the parents that you want and desire to have to help with the outcome that you choose for your life or that you're trying to gain. And so I did. I chose my parents, and I went through some things. I chose parents who were destined to have dysfunction in their lives and marriages. First of all, they were 16 when they met, got married. They got married at 16. My parents did. So, unless you had some really, really good parents that really instilled the highest education and wisdom into you, by 16 you're not ready to get married and have children in this country. We're not made to be that mature here. And my parents, I guess, weren't, because they weren't able to hold it together, and stay married. But that's life. That's part of life. Sometimes people just don't stay together, and that's okay. I have 2 failed marriages myself, and I think I'm better for it. But it's sad that kids were produced from those marriages, and both parents aren't raising those kids together in the same house all the time. So that's not good. But at the same time, it's still a possibility for me as a father to instill coming of age rituals into my children. I still have that much access, so that I can at least help with that. And so that's a big thing. And even just to be in touch with them, just to call them every day or every week or every month. just to know, just for a child to know that they are loved by the man who fathered them, that is a very powerful thing in the psyche of a child. Or mother too. Either parent. It's powerful, because we are an archetype in their life, in their genetics. Even if they didn't understand English or whatever, just knowing that we were that's an archetypal. You have a need for approval, and that's your ancestor. Gonna be your ancestor when and it's all genetic. So I guess the bottom line to this is that choosing people who I knew would have discord, so that I would have difficulty coming up, was, I think, part of my plan, because I wanted to be tough, and I wanted to be strong, and I wanted to be able to not back down to anything or anyone, any power. I knew I would be sovereign. I always knew I would be sovereign. I was 4 years old the first time I realized that everyone around me lied. And I'm not just talking about people in my family. I'm talking about everyone. People in stores, people at school, people at church. Everywhere I went, by 3 years old, I was reading books and learning how to read and write already by 3 years old. So I was pretty much, I was intelligent enough at the time to be able to have solid memories that I can remember right now, like yesterday. I remember stuff from when I was 3 years old very, very much. And I talked to a lot of people, and people don't seem to be remembering a lot of stuff from back when they were 3, 4, 5 years old. I met people who said they didn't remember stuff from when they were 6. And they were 20 something. I'm 44. I can remember stuff when I was 3, yesterday. But anyway, I'm just saying that to say that these are real memories. And I remember distinctly remembering that, remembering at 3 years old that I didn't want to be a part of this culture. Why am I here? Everyone here is lying. Everyone is lying. Anyone's house I'm at, the door knocks. Oh, don't tell them I'm not home. But that's lying. But you want me to tell the truth? Y'all make it so important for me to always tell the truth and never lie. But every one of you, everyone around me, I've seen lie. I've seen do something dishonest. I felt like there was no one in the world who had integrity. I really felt like that. I felt like that a lot. And and I would see some of the older archetypes, in some of the religious gatherings and things my family took me to. I would see some of the older archetypes who would give off the the mature masculine, the mature feminine vibe, you know. And so those were the people that I might have trusted as a child, but I didn't trust many people around me because everybody lied. I mean, like my grandmother, you know, my mom's mom was like, not to just call people out on, you know, bogus, but like, you know, I mean, I heard her lie a lot. I saw her do disrespectful things, and I saw people do this kind of stuff, and it just made me go, wow, you know, do I really want to be a part of this? Did I really come here? You know? So I guess so for me to come to a place where I knew that it was going to be difficult because there's not a lot of integrity here, I knew that I was going to have to be tough and strong and smart to see through it all and to be okay. And so to that led me into some pretty tough times in my life, a lot of times where I was alone for a while and had a lot of time on my hands, and I you know, and I used it to better myself and to read and read and read, and I've read over 1,000 books in my life, and I think that yes, my life path was fate, and that it led me to a lot of education that I would not have gotten out in the streets, or, you know, working in an office when I was an IT guy, or doing. I never would have been able to read the amount of books and absorb the amount of information and wisdom that I did when I had the chance to. So yes, I do think that my thank you, amazing personality was led to me by fate because of the life path I chose. So I never thought about it like that. Yeah, but well, maybe I did. It's in a different way. But thanks for the question. It made me ponder some stuff. Maybe give you guys a little bit more background on me, those of you who may not know who are watching. But what I will say, though, is that the coming of age rituals that I participated in were all boy masculine. They weren't man masculine rituals. These were things that were in the streets that were really about drugs and negativity, you know, smoke some weed, or, you know, drink so much you throw up, you know, doing things like this that made you feel like you were a man. But in reality, you weren't becoming a man. You were just learning some man things, but you weren't releasing the boy, which is the only way to become a man. And so I never really did that as an adult. I had so many boy things that I still kind of held on to, and I think a lot of us do in this country, because and in this worldwide society, because that's what patriarchy is. See, people rally against patriarchy and confuse or try to align patriarchy with the masculine. But the key is that patriarchy shits on men and women. Women are not the only people who suffer at the hand of patriarchy. Men are devastated too by patriarchy, because patriarchy isn't to be equaled with masculine, and especially not sacred masculine. There's nothing sacred masculine at all about patriarchy whatsoever. What patriarchy is patriarchy is a spoiled, rotten, disrespectful, depressed, angry little boy. That's what patriarchy is. And when you take patriarchy and you hold it up in the light, you don't see a whole lot of masculine, mature masculine there. You know, what you see is, you see boy archetype all day long. And so that boy is not here to help, heal, love. He's here to get what he wants and satisfy his ego and his lower base desires at the expense of not only women, but anyone who threatens his fragile little boy male ego. Really. And if you want to bash patriarchy, I'm all for it. I don't think it's a good system either, because it hurts us all. It hurts men and women, you know. But I wouldn't say bash the masculine. That's not very wise, because we all have masculine and feminine inside of us, and there's no way to eradicate either. So you might as well learn to embrace both sides and learn from both sides, so that you can find that balance and be the best version of yourself you could be. And so rather than bash masculinity or masculine energy or the masculine archetype with the patriarchy that you're bashing, tried to envision a world that was not patriarchal, but actually was mature masculine ran, you probably wouldn't have a problem with that at all, because mature masculine would invite the wisdom and the just as equally valuable wisdom and energy and intelligence and qualities and characteristics and all the benefits of the feminine, the sacred feminine. So I'm just saying this all to say that in order for us to get to that sacred masculine, sacred feminine balance, we need to be initiated into sacred masculine, sacred feminine adulthood properly by a qualified elder who has the wisdom and knowledge to pass down to us, and do that in a sacred ceremonial space that's separate from the world and separate from women if it's a boy, or separate from men if it's a girl. And they need to have that coming of age ritual applied and orchestrated properly, and that alone can produce an adult who is ready for adulthood, who is ready to become the mature masculine or feminine that they can become, a proper mature masculine or a proper mature feminine archetype holder, you know? So I'm hoping that this talk can spark some ideas about what ways we can institute this type of ritual into the lives of our children and our children's children. And actually, what ways can we as adults go back into our psyches and fix ourselves by doing these rituals now? There's a monarchy ritual ceremony that my beloved has participated in and held, actually, for women to heal themselves using this ritual as a way to, as an adult, fix the child in you that never had this monarchy ritual like it should have been orchestrated in the first place. And so I'm just saying this to say that the women in this group who participated in that monarchy ceremony had spent a life, of shame and just negative emotional thought patterns based on what they had been taught about their bodies and their blood flow and their menstrual cycle. And so this ceremony was a celebration of it, and a celebration of something natural is what it should be. And if more women had this at age 13 or 12, whenever they got to their first cycle, how many women would go through life feeling more loved and cared for and welcomed and wanted, and not made to feel cast out because of something that naturally occurs to them so that they can have children. So they don't feel ugly or disgusting or not so sexy today because I'm bleeding. I mean, I'm here because my mom had a period. So looking at that as anything other than a positive thing, to me, is kind of fruitless and unwise. Because there's no one here watching this video, male, female, masculine, feminine, patriarchal, matriarchal, everyone watching this had a mother, came from a vagina, and the only way that could be possible was because your mother used to bleed every month. That is a beautiful thing, because if she didn't do that, you wouldn't be here. See how that trick of the mind works, how easy it is to see that as something beautiful now? You wouldn't be here had your mom not bled. Think about that. That's a beautiful thing to be celebrated. So if you have a daughter, wouldn't you want your daughter, after she had her first cycle, to go through her whole life after that feeling wonderful about that experience, rather than feeling like it's something she should be ashamed of and embarrassed about? made to go off and be cast aside because she was going through something natural that God gave her, this gift of I can produce life. Come on, man. I mean, this is easy. ABC's 1, 2, 3s right here. It shouldn't be hard, but we're making it so hard as a culture to shun the things that we should be holding up as holy, and we celebrate things that are really beneath us in every way. You know. So what I like to do is I'd like to talk about what ideas we might focus on that might lead to the institution of some new coming-of-age rituals, some new coming-of-age initiation rituals into the lives of our children, the children of our communities and of our countries. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to put together something like that here in Orlando, where I'm at. I'm going to, and some of the ceremonies and offerings that me and my beloved will be offering on pedalalchemy.com are going to be ceremonies that are for wound healing and for helping people to celebrate the sacred in them. And so I think that doing something for children coming into adulthood is something that I might end up focusing on pretty soon here. I think I'm going to try to put together a ritual, sort of a community thing, for the people that don't get this, for the people who don't have a mature masculine archetype in their life that is qualified to assist them into the understanding of the adult archetype and what they're leaving behind and how to leave it behind, how to gain ego death so that you can leave all of that behind and become the mature masculine or mature feminine archetype. This is something that I want to focus on. So I'm going to be doing some more studying on this myself and trying to put together a container for this. And I would really, really appreciate any ideas from any of you guys about what coming of age initiation rituals or rites you participated in yourself, if any, what you feel like you gained from those or how they may have harmed you, so that as we put together something new, this is going to be something totally new, something that, you know, has to leave behind the stigmas of what a child was 20, 30, 50 years ago, because the modern millennial kid is very, very different. They have they grew up with things we didn't grow up with, and so they're different people and they're different archetypes, you know. And so we're going to come up with a way to help them transcend the child psyche mentality, the child archetype mentality, and move into adulthood. What ritual ceremony can we have that would facilitate this in a better way today for today's children than what was around, you know, before the Inquisition came and wiped out all the traditional methods that had been used for who knows how long. I want to focus on this a little bit. So that's why initiation was the ritual. That's why initiation was the topic of today's show. Last week it was ceremony. The week before that it was ritual. And today it's initiation, a specific type of ritual to initiate you into a new archetype. So with that being said, I'm hoping that anybody that wants to participate in my diving into that realm wants to send me any information about it. You can either leave a comment on this video, either on YouTube or Facebook, or even maybe send an email if you want. That's Jericho Ros, and in the Jericho and Rose, take the E's out and put 3's. It's J3richo Ros3 at gmail.com. You can email me there. You can also leave me messages, and also a voice message that you can leave, and I can put it on the show and get your voice on the show. If you go to the THCshow.com, you can leave me a message there anytime, doesn't matter when, and I can put it on the next show. You can also become a subscriber to this audio podcast at anchor.fm/the THC show, or you can just go to the THCshow.com. That's where it takes you. So I'm hoping you get to go by there, become a subscriber to the show. Also, if you don't want to do that, you can just go to patreon.com/Jericho Ros. That's patreon.com/J3richo Ros3. If you go to that page, you can become a patron and kind of leave a monthly donation of whatever amount you want, and have access to all of my special Patreon posts that are not made public. And I would appreciate any help for the movement that anybody gives me by going and supporting me there. Other than that, just watch the videos, listen to all my stuff on listen to all the episodes on Spotify, on Breaker. We're everywhere that they have podcasts. Just watching the show and streaming it off one of those platforms helps me out. I might get a couple pennies of some advertising, every time you watch a show. So just share them and help me get these videos out, because people need to add wisdom to their lives, and people need to hear this dialogue about talking higher consciousness, because there's a lot to be investigated here. We talk about a whole lot of things. So thanks for joining the show. I appreciate you for coming, and I hope that everybody tunes in next week. I am going to have someone new on the show that I'm sure you guys are going to have a nice time listening to. I won't tell you who it is yet, but someone who is a drum maker. He makes sacred drums, and he is also a shaman, I believe. I want to just make sure that I'm getting this correct. I might not have said anything just yet, because I wanted to tell you who it was first, but I don't see his name now. Give me 1 second here. Well, anyway, I'll put a post in the group to let you guys know his name, but I will have a drummer coming up and interviewing him on the show to talk about drumming, sacred drums, to talk about his journey and why vibration is important, why drum is important, how these are things that can be used for communication and to communicate knowledge, and how they're used in ritual and ceremony. I think that this is something that would be a really interesting conversation for you guys. So look forward to that either next week or the week after. I'm not really sure. We haven't set in the date just yet, but we're working on it, and I'll let you guys know about that soon. I'll post it in the group. I just want to say, if you haven't joined the Facebook group, please go to facebook.com/group/the THC. I'm sorry. It's facebook.com/group/THC time. THC time. That's the Facebook group. I hope you guys get on there, add yourself to the group. We'll approve it. You can invite your friends. Make sure you let them know about the show. Make sure you let them know about our group. And please come and join the dialogue. If you know somebody who's intelligent, somebody who's seeking intelligence, we're looking for everybody that wants to talk about consciousness to join the show, join the dialogue. Please get involved. I need more and more of you guys to be participating in the group. Please post in the group and send any thoughts you come across about consciousness or anything consciousness related. Please post it in our Facebook group. We'd love to hear from you guys. And that's about it. I'm going to wrap up the show now. It's been just under an hour. I got about 3 more minutes left. So I'm going to wrap it on up right now. I just wanted to say thanks to everybody who came out. Thanks to everybody who supports me on the Patreon page and also on Anchor.fm. I appreciate all my subscribers. You guys are amazing. I saw a new update of the Loan Me a Dime movie. Oh my God, it looks so good. So I can't wait till you guys see this movie that I was a co-star in. It's a really good movie so far, but it's not out yet. So I'll give you details on that on the show later once I know more details about when we're going to release it. But anyway, that being said, I'm going to end the show now and let you guys go and enjoy the rest of your Monday nights. Thank you so much for joining. I am your host, Jericho Ros, signing out, and we'll continue the dialogue next week, Monday, 7 p.m., same bad channel. Have a wonderful night.